Welcome to E3 Rehab. I'm Dr. Mark Sertica, physical therapist, and today we're going to talk about 6 reasons why you should be performing calf raises both with a bent knee and a straight knee, how to properly execute them, and how you can program them into your own routine. There are a lot of muscles in this lower leg or shank, but today we're just focusing on the superficial posterior compartment consisting of the gastrocnemius and soleus. Combined, they're referred to as the triceps surae. So the gastrocnemius is actually made up of 2 heads, medial and lateral, that attach to the distal aspect of the femur proximally. It's kind of the muscle that's most superficial or visible when you're looking at the leg from the back. The soleus is actually deep to the gastrocnemius and attaches to the tibia and the fibula, and they both insert on the calcaneus or heel bone here via that really thick Achilles tendon. So both muscles allow us to plantar flex our foot, or more commonly, allow us to do these heel raises. Additionally, since the gastrocnemius attaches up above the knee, it can also aid in knee flexion. Both of these muscles are pretty vital during the gait cycle as well. Now, before we get into the 6 reasons why you should be performing calf raises, I think it's important to highlight the size and force producing capabilities of the soleus, as the gastrocnemius often gets a lot of the attention. And this information is going to be really important for our later discussions. If we look to research by Albrecht et al. In 2008 and Ward et al. In 2009, we see that the soleus can make up 60% of the mass and physiological cross-sectional area of the calf. Each head of the gastrocnemius pales in comparison. And Ward writes that muscle architectural values are the best predictors of muscle function. So something like the PCSA is proportional to a muscle's maximum force-producing capacity. This is emphasized by Lieber and Frieder in 2000, who state that the soleus is an extreme example of a muscle designed for generating a lot of force. Okay, so what are the 6 reasons you should be training these muscles? Reason number 1, Achilles tendinopathy. There's actually a lot to unpack here. Maheu et al. In 2006 reported that the strength of the plantar flexors was identified as a predictor for an Achilles tendon overuse injury, with subjects having a lower plantar flexor strength at greater risk. O'Neill et al. In 2019 found that individuals with Achilles tendinopathy had deficits in plantar flexor torque and endurance on both sides, with weakness of the soleus appearing to be responsible for the majority of the deficits. Willie and Packett in 2019 also highlighted that Achilles tendinopathy is the most common running-related injury experienced by the master runner. Finally, Bayer and colleagues in 2015 determined that calf raises done eccentrically or heavy and slow can be an effective means for treating Achilles tendinopathy. So, heel raises might be important for reducing your risk of Achilles tendinopathy and treating Achilles tendinopathy. Reason number 2, medial tibial stress syndrome, also known as a shin splint and another common issue in runners. Despite what we often hear, the exact etiology and mechanism of injury isn't well understood. However, one of the leading researchers on the topic, Marinus Winters, suggests that a combination of graded tibial loading exercises and ankle plantar flexor strengthening exercises may be the best strategy for athletes with medial tibial stress syndrome. Reason number 3, the anterior cruciate ligament. Most people know that the hamstrings can be protective of the ACL due to their posterior pull on the tibia during dynamic movements, but Elias et al. In 2003 and Moctezarde et al. In 2013 demonstrated that the soleus can also be protective of the ACL even though it doesn't cross the knee. Reason number 4, running performance. In some circles, running is all about the glutes, but it should actually be all about the calves, especially the soleus. Dorn et al. In 2012 and Sache and colleagues in 2014 demonstrated that for speeds up to 7 meters per second or a 3.8 minute mile, the ankle plantar flexors are incredibly important for forcefully pushing into the ground, which results in a longer stride length, which equates to faster running speeds. Reason number 5, ankle dorsiflexion. Now, there's nothing wrong with performing various mobility drills to improve ankle dorsiflexion. However, those exercises usually only influence one biomotor ability, flexibility or range of motion. If we instead perform heel raises at a high intensity through a large range of motion, we are now improving mobility while also enhancing other capacities such as strength, endurance, tendon stiffness, etc. You get a lot more bang for your buck. Reason number 6, aesthetics. Strong calves just look good. And while genetics are often blamed for their structure or potential for change, they're a muscle group that can be trained just like any other muscle. Execution. How should you be performing heel raises? Well, there are probably a few checkboxes that you should start with. Intensity. You want the exercises to be heavy and hard, somewhere in the range of 6 to 12 repetitions, not even if you're a runner, but especially if you're a runner, to improve tendon stiffness. This is also a great range for hypertrophy. Tempo, or speed of the movement. Go slow. Don't bounce the reps. You want a nice, controlled range of motion throughout. And with that range of motion, make sure to get a full stretch at the bottom and a nice peak contraction at the top, so a deficit or a step is preferred if possible. Contraction type. You don't have to do eccentric only if you're following the recommendations just outlined. This is highlighted by Boehm et al. In 2015. Proximity to failure. If you're working really hard in that 6 to 12 rep range, you should either fail or be 1 to 3 reps shy of failure. And finally, rest times. You want to rest at least 2 minutes between each set. Programming. Let's start with exercise selection. Without a doubt, you should be utilizing knee straight and knee bent variations. A study by Landon et al. In 2015 demonstrated that the gastrocnemius is at less of a mechanical advantage when the knee is flexed beyond 60 degrees. Now, either option will target both muscles, but we might be able to achieve preferential activation of the soleus with knee bent variations. If you're going to perform a knee bent variation, it is preferable that you are seated so that your quads are not the limiting muscle group and so that you can provide overload to your calves. An example would be a wall sit on the balls of your feet versus a seated heel raise using a machine. There are a lot of options here though for the gym and at home. Smith machine, dumbbells on your thighs, leg press, steps, and the list goes on. You just have to find options available to you that work well for you. In terms of actual programming, I like to keep it very simple. If it's your first time including heel raises into your routine, 2 times per week, 1 day, 3 sets of 6 to 12 repetitions using a knee straight variation, and another day, 3 sets of 6 to 12 repetitions using a knee bent variation. That's it. Over time, add another set or 2 per day, and eventually, if needed, you can work up to 12 to 15 sets over the course of 3 days with a day of rest in between. Well, there you go. Anatomy, function, execution, programming, and 6 reasons why you should be performing heel raises. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and head over to our website, e3rehab.com, where you can find our programs, podcasts, and so much more. Peace.